A new report by a pro-Israel media watchdog is raising questions over whether or not members of the media had advanced knowledge of the deadly Hamas attack on Israel last month. Now, earlier this week, Honest Reporting, that's a nonprofit that monitors the media for anti-Israel bias, they accused 4 freelance journalists who worked with Reuters, the Associated Press on October 7th of knowing about the attack before it happened and having questionable ties to Hamas. One of the reporters also has worked for CNN, another for the New York Times. This expose led to accusations by Israeli officials that the outlets themselves may have known about the attack before it happened. However, all of these outlets, CNN, Reuters, the AP, the New York Times, they deny those claims, with CNN, Reuters, and the AP cutting ties with one of the reporters named in the story. The Israeli government has asked the 4 organizations for more information about the 4 photographers named in that report. So for more on this one, we're now joined by the host of NewsNation's On Balance, Leland Vittert. Leland, it is confounding that these journalists were there on the front lines of war in the early hours of October 7th, right when the incursion, the warfare began. One of the freelancers also seen being kissed on the cheek by the mastermind behind the Hamas attack. You've spent a lot of years as a journalist in the Middle East. In your eyes, what happened here?
It's hard to know. It's also hard to know whether the freelancers were sort of just brought along and not told what was going on. That often happens as a journalist, certainly in the Middle East. There were times that I was told to show up at a certain place by people, and I didn't know what was about to happen or why, but people who we trusted within an organization, be it a military organization of a country, be it the Israelis or be it somebody else, that we knew, they knew something was happening, and we were told to come along, and we documented the best we could. The issue here is not the freelancers inside Gaza, because the freelancers inside Gaza are cutouts for Hamas. Hamas does not allow a free press to operate inside Gaza. It is a police state. It's akin to North Korea. If you are a member of the press or you work for an international news organization inside Gaza, you report what Hamas tells you to report. It's that simple. Or you get your fingernails pulled out, or you fly off a building. So the freelancers aren't the issue here. The issue is the international media organizations, the AP, Reuters, CNN, New York Times, and others, who take what these freelancers give them and then regurgitate to the viewers or their readers as if it is honest, fair, and independent reporting. It's not. It's the Hamas PR department's version of events as conduited through these freelancers. So what you end up getting, and what is the AP reports XYZ. Well, no, the AP has just washed whatever Hamas has said and put their logo on it, and then the AP isn't honest about that. Certainly during my time in the Middle East, we were very careful that what we got out of Gaza, what news we got out of Gaza, we were extraordinarily careful with really branding that what it was rather than what Hamas wanted it to be.
Yeah, so moving forward, I mean, what do media outlets need to change? Because all of these outlets have now responded saying we knew nothing, we've now cut ties with these journalists. I mean, do you fully believe them? You don't think they were at least given a, hey, we may want to be here, heads up? Or do you think these freelancers just knew the plans ahead of time? Because they're obviously, it seems to be, embedded with Hamas, at least the one being kissed on the cheek. They knew the photos would go gangbusters, no doubt be picked up, and just started working on their own before being hired for the day or the week or however these outlets work.
Yeah, given the operational security Hamas had, I would be highly doubtful if a couple of days ahead of time they were given a heads up, hey, we're going to attack Israel on October 7th. You want to be there at the fence at 7 a.m. That it's just not the way things work in a war zone.
Okay.
What I would say, though, is from at the organization level, at the New York Times and the AP and Reuters and others, and we saw this after the hospital bombing, right, when Israel allegedly bombed the hospital and 500 were dead and everybody ran with the story, and it turns out it was an Islamic Jihad rocket. As editors and as news people, you have a responsibility to think about the veracity of your sources, the historical reliability of your sources. Well, things coming out of Gaza are historically unreliable. They're historically Hamas's view of the news. What's interesting is that Hamas seems to be the only source that the AP and Reuters and BBC and CNN and the New York Times continue to trust over and over and over and over again, when they continue to be wrong over and over and over and over again. Only when it is news that is unfavorable to Israel is the New York Times and others willing to go with the same source that has been historically wrong just so they can report something that's difficult for one side.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.